The ships appeared above Earth on a Tuesday morning. Massive vessels that looked like they were made of glass and light. People all over the world stopped what they were doing and stared at the sky. Some were afraid. Others were excited. Everyone knew this was the moment that would change everything. Commander Tejo stood in the briefing room at the military base, looking at the 20 people who would represent humanity. He was a veteran officer with gray hair and steady hands. He had seen combat in 3 different countries, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Listen carefully," Tejo said to the group. "We don't know what these aliens want. We don't know if they're friendly or dangerous, but we're going up there to find out. Follow protocol, stay calm, and for God's sake, don't do anything stupid." Jiwoo sat in the back row, trying not to look as terrified as he felt. He was 23 years old and had only been in the military for 6 months. He was a medic, trained to patch up wounds and give injections. He had no business being on a first contact mission. But the selection had been random. The government wanted to show that Earth sent all kinds of people, not just generals and scientists. The woman next to him was Dr. Yoon Seo, a medical officer with 15 years of experience. She looked calm and confident. Jiwoo wished he could feel the same way. "First time in space?" she asked him quietly. "First time doing anything important," Jiwoo admitted. Dr. Yoon Seo smiled. "You'll be fine. Just stay close to me and do what I do." The shuttle ride up to the alien ship took 40 minutes. Jiwoo spent most of it trying not to throw up from the zero gravity. When they finally docked, the airlock opened with a hiss that made everyone jump. The aliens were waiting on the other side. They were tall, much taller than humans. Their bodies seemed to be made of some kind of crystal that caught the light and reflected it in rainbow colors. They had 2 arms and 2 legs like humans, but their faces were angular and sharp. Their eyes glowed with a soft blue light. One of them stepped forward. When it spoke, a device on its chest translated the words into English. "Welcome, humans of Earth. I am Research Director Hanavi of the Veltari Empire. We come in peace and curiosity. We detected your nuclear technology and wish to make contact." Commander Tejo bowed slightly. "We're honored by your visit. I'm Commander Tejo, representing the United Earth Defense Force." Hanavi's crystalline head tilted slightly. "We must implement quarantine procedures. Our biology and yours are unknown to each other. Diseases that are harmless to you might kill us, and the reverse is also true. You will be kept in our medical bay for 7 days while we run tests. This is standard protocol for all first contact situations." Nobody had expected this, but it made sense. Dr. Yoon Seo stepped forward. "We understand. We'll cooperate fully." The Veltari led them through corridors that seemed to be made of living light. Everything hummed with a soft musical sound. Jiwoo kept his mouth shut and his eyes open, trying to take it all in. The ship was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Too perfect, too clean. The medical bay was enormous. The Veltari had set up 20 isolation tents in a large chamber. Each tent was made of a transparent material that shimmered like soap bubbles. Inside each tent was a bed, a small table, and some basic supplies. "You will each take a tent," Hanavi explained. "We will monitor your vital signs constantly. 3 times per day, medical staff will bring you food and water. Do not leave your tent under any circumstances. Do not touch the tent walls. Do not attempt to communicate with other humans. These rules exist for your protection and ours." Jiwoo was assigned to tent number 17. He stepped inside and heard a soft seal form behind him. The tent was comfortable enough, but he already felt trapped. Through the transparent walls, he could see the other humans settling into their own tents. Commander Tejo was 2 tents away, already lying on his bed with his eyes closed. Dr. Yoon Seo was on the other side, organizing her small space with efficient movements. The first day passed slowly. Veltari medical staff came and went, but they never spoke to the humans. They just scanned them with strange devices and took samples of blood, hair, and skin. Jiwoo let them do whatever they needed. He was just a medic. He knew how important medical testing was. By the second day, Jiwoo was bored out of his mind. There was nothing to do except sleep, eat, and stare at the walls. He tried doing exercises to pass the time. Push-ups, sit-ups, running in place. The Veltari medical staff watched him through the tent walls with what seemed like fascination. On the 3rd night, Jiwoo couldn't sleep. The ship's lighting had dimmed to simulate night, and most of the other humans were asleep in their tents. Jiwoo lay on his bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about home. About his mother and father who must be worried sick. About his friends who were probably watching all this on television. He heard a soft sound outside his tent. Footsteps light and careful. Ji-woo sat up slowly. Through the shimmer of the tent wall, he could see a figure approaching. It was one of the Veltari, but this one wore different clothes than the medical staff. More formal, more important. The figure stopped outside his tent. Ji-woo could see it was Hanavi, the research director who had greeted them when they first arrived. She was holding a small device that glowed softly in the darkness. She stood there for a long moment just watching him. Ji-woo didn't move. He barely breathed. Then Hanavi did something unexpected. She reached out and touched the tent wall. The material responded to her touch, creating a small opening. Her crystalline hand reached through, holding the scanning device. She was breaking her own quarantine rules. Ji-woo should have called out, should have alerted someone. But something stopped him. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the look in her glowing eyes that seemed almost human in its intensity. He watched as her crystal finger extended toward him, moving slowly and carefully. The device in her other hand beeped softly. She was taking readings, collecting data, doing research that apparently couldn't wait until morning. Her finger was inches from his skin when Ji-woo finally spoke. "What do you need?" he asked quietly. Hanavi froze. Her glowing eyes widened in what might have been surprise or fear. She hadn't expected him to be awake. Hanavi stood perfectly still, her crystalline hand frozen in the air between them. The scanning device in her other hand beeped once, then went silent. For several seconds, neither of them moved. "I apologize," she finally said, her voice coming through the translator with a musical quality. "I did not mean to disturb your rest. I should withdraw." "Wait," Ji-woo said. He sat up fully on his bed, keeping his voice low so he wouldn't wake the others. "You came here for a reason. What do you need?" Hanavi's glowing eyes studied him carefully. She seemed to be weighing her options. Finally, she spoke. "Your vital signs are unusual. Different from the other humans. I wanted to collect additional data while you were in deep sleep. The readings are clearer that way. What's unusual about them?" Ji-woo asked. He was genuinely curious now. Nobody had ever told him there was anything special about his health. "Your heart rate variability is exceptional. Your body temperature regulation is more efficient than your companions. And your cellular repair markers suggest an unusually robust healing response." Hanavi paused. "These readings fascinate me because they should not be possible given your species' baseline data." Ji-woo almost laughed. "There's nothing special about me. I'm just a regular guy. I run a few times a week. I eat okay. Nothing crazy. You run?" Hanavi tilted her head in that curious way the Veltari had. "For what purpose? Are you fleeing from danger?" Now Ji-woo did laugh, though he kept it quiet. "No, I run for exercise. For fun, kind of. To stay in shape." "You expend energy for no survival purpose?" Hanavi's confusion was obvious even through the alien features. "This seems inefficient." "Maybe," Ji-woo said with a shrug. "But humans do it all the time. We run, we lift heavy things, we climb mountains. We push our bodies to see what they can do." Hanavi moved closer to the tent, the opening she had created widening slightly. Her crystalline features caught the dim light, making her look like a living sculpture. "This is what interests me about your species. You intentionally stress your biological systems. The Veltari do not do this. Our bodies are powerful in many ways, but also fragile. We do not test our limits." "Now, why not?" Ji-woo asked. "Because we might break," Hanavi said simply. "Our crystalline structure is strong but inflexible. Too much stress causes fractures that can be fatal. We evolved to value caution over endurance." Ji-woo thought about this. "So you've never pushed yourself? Never tried to see how far you could go?" "No," Hanavi admitted. "And that is why your species confuses us. In the 2 days we have observed you, we have seen humans performing what you call exercises, running in place, lifting their own body weight repeatedly. One of your companions was doing an activity where he held his body parallel to the ground using only his arms." "Why?" "Lieutenant Dae-hyun was doing planks," Ji-woo said with a small smile. "He's very disciplined. He probably does them every day." "Every day?" Hanavi's voice rose slightly.
He deliberately causes himself discomfort every day.
"It's not really discomfort once you get used to it," Ji-woo explained. "It's more like a challenge. You feel good after you finish. Like you accomplished something." Hanavi was silent for a long moment. Then she held up her scanning device. "May I collect the samples I came for? I promise to be quick." "You can return to sleep." Ji-woo held out his hand. "Go ahead." but I'm not going back to sleep. I'm wide awake now. The research director's crystalline fingers were cool and smooth against his skin. She used the device to scan his palm, his wrist, his forearm. Each time the device beeped, she studied the readings with intense focus. "Your cellular structure is remarkable," she said softly. "So much redundancy, so many repair mechanisms. It is as if your bodies expect to be damaged and have prepared for it." "I guess that makes sense," Jiwoo said. "Humans used to hunt animals by chasing them. Did you know that? Our ancestors would run after prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We can't run as fast as most animals, but we can run longer. We just don't quit." Hanavi looked up from her device. "You chased your food for days?" "Our ancestors did. We call it persistence hunting. The animal would run away, rest, run away again, rest again. But the humans just kept coming, slowly, steadily, never stopping. Eventually, the animal would be too tired to run anymore." "This is horrifying," Hanavi said, but there was fascination in her voice. "And magnificent. Your species won through sheer refusal to stop." "Pretty much," Jiwoo said. "That's kind of our thing. We're not the strongest or the fastest, but we're really good at just keeping going." Hanavi finished her scans and lowered her device. She should have left then, but she didn't. Instead, she sat down on the floor outside the tent, her crystalline body folding with unusual grace. "Tell me more about this." About human endurance, so Jiwoo did. He told her about marathon runners who ran for 26 miles without stopping. About mountain climbers who spent days ascending peaks in freezing temperatures. About swimmers who crossed entire channels of ocean. About his own uncle who had survived 3 days in the wilderness with a broken leg, dragging himself toward help inch by inch. "He crawled for 3 days?" Hanavi asked, her voice full of disbelief. "With a fractured bone?" "Yeah. He said the pain was terrible, but he just focused on moving forward. One pull at a time. He didn't think about the whole distance, just the next few feet. Then the next few feet after that. Eventually he made it to a road where someone found him. A Veltari would have died," Hanavi said quietly. "Not from the broken bone, but from the pain and stress. Our bodies shut down when overwhelmed. It is a survival mechanism, but also a limitation." They talked for over an hour. Jiwoo told her about human athletes and explorers. About people who worked long shifts in hospitals and factories. About soldiers who marched for days with heavy packs. About ordinary people who survived extraordinary situations through nothing but determination. Hanavi listened to all of it, her glowing eyes never leaving his face. She asked questions that showed how different their species really were. Questions about pain tolerance and muscle fatigue, and the human ability to function on minimal sleep. "You can operate on 4 hours of sleep?" she asked at one point. "For days at a time?" "It's not fun, but yeah," Jiwoo said. "Soldiers do it. Medical residents do it. Parents with new babies do it. You feel tired, but you can keep going." "Veltari require 9 hours of rest per cycle," Hanavi said. "Less than that and our cognitive functions begin to fail. 9 hours every day?" Jiwoo was surprised. "That's a lot. For you, perhaps. For us, it is necessary." Hanavi stood up slowly. "I should leave. I have already stayed too long. If anyone discovers I broke quarantine protocol, there will be consequences." "Will you come back?" Jiwoo asked before he could stop himself. Hanavi looked at him for a long moment. "Yes," she finally said. "I believe I will. There is much more I need to understand about your species, and you are the first human who has truly helped me understand." She reached out and touched the tent wall, sealing the opening she had created. Then she turned and walked away into the darkness, her crystalline body catching the last bits of light until she disappeared. Jiwoo lay back down on his bed, but he didn't sleep for a long time. He kept thinking about the conversation, about how surprised Hanavi had been by things he considered completely normal, about how different their species really were, and he wondered what would happen when she came back. The next night, Jiwoo lay awake waiting. He told himself he was being foolish. Hanavi probably wouldn't risk breaking protocol again. She had gotten her data. There was no reason for her to return, but she did. Around the same time as before, Jiwoo heard the soft footsteps approaching his tent. Through the transparent wall, he saw her crystalline form moving through the darkness. This time she didn't hesitate. She created the opening in the tent wall and sat down in the same spot as the previous night. "You are awake," she observed. "It wasn't a question. I was hoping you'd come back," Jiwoo admitted. "I've been thinking about our conversation." There's so much I want to ask you. And I have questions for you, Hanavi said. She pulled out her scanning device but didn't activate it. Tell me more about human persistence. Yesterday you mentioned hunting. But surely your species no longer needs such endurance. You have technology now. You have weapons and vehicles. Jiwoo sat up and crossed his legs on the bed. That's true. But we still do it. We still test ourselves. Last year there was this guy who ran across an entire desert. Took him almost a month. He carried all his supplies and just ran every day. But why? Hanavi leaned forward, her glowing eyes intense. What purpose did it serve? To prove he could, I guess. To see his own limits. Humans like challenges. We like doing hard things just to say we did them. Hanavi was quiet for a moment. The Veltari Empire spans 200 star systems. We have technology that can reshape planets. We have defeated diseases that once killed millions. But we have never done something simply to prove we could. Everything must have purpose, logic, reason. That sounds lonely, Jiwoo said softly. The research director tilted her head. Lonely, I do not understand. Well, if you only do things that make logical sense, you never get to be surprised. You never get to discover something new about yourself. Some of the best things humans do are kind of crazy, like climbing a mountain just because it's there, or swimming in freezing water just to feel alive, or staying up all night with friends just because you're having fun. You intentionally deprive yourself of sleep for entertainment? Hanavi asked. Jiwoo laughed quietly. Sometimes, yeah. When I was in high school, my friends and I would stay up until sunrise, just talking and joking around. We'd be exhausted the next day, but it was worth it for those memories. I am trying to imagine this, Hanavi said slowly, choosing tiredness over rest, choosing discomfort over comfort. It goes against every instinct the Veltari have. What are Veltari parties like? Jiwoo asked suddenly. Parties? Yeah, you know, when you get together with friends to celebrate something, or just to have fun. Hanavi considered this. We have formal gatherings, diplomatic events, cultural exhibitions. These are scheduled and structured. Everyone knows their role and follows protocol. That sounds like work, not a party, Jiwoo said with a grin. Human parties are different. People eat and drink and dance and laugh. Sometimes they dance until their feet hurt. Sometimes they laugh until their stomachs ache. Sometimes they talk until their voices are hoarse. It's not logical, but it's good for the soul. The soul, Hanavi repeated. This is a religious concept? Not really. It's just a way of saying the part of you that isn't logical, the part that feels things, the part that wants things that don't make sense. They talked for 2 hours that night. Hanavi asked about human emotions, and Jiwoo tried his best to explain them. He told her about falling in love and feeling heartbroken, about being angry and being joyful, about missing someone so much it physically hurt. Physical pain from emotional distress? Hanavi asked. Your emotions affect your body. All the time, Jiwoo said. When I'm really nervous, my stomach feels sick. When I'm sad, my chest feels heavy. When I'm excited, I feel like I can't sit still. Our bodies and our feelings are all connected. Fascinating, Hanavi murmured. And dangerous. If emotions can cause physical symptoms, they could impair your judgment in critical situations. They can, Jiwoo agreed. But they also help us. Fear keeps us safe. Love makes us protect each other. Anger gives us strength when we need to fight. We're not perfectly logical, but we're alive in a way that logic alone can't explain. On the third night, Hanavi brought a small device that projected holographic images. She showed Jiwoo images of the Veltari homeworld. Crystal cities that stretched into the clouds. Gardens filled with plants that glowed with bioluminescent light. Oceans that looked like liquid silver. It's beautiful, Jiwoo said honestly, but it looks so clean. So perfect. That is our way, Hanavi said. Everything in its place. Everything optimized. Everything efficient. Do you ever get dirty? Jiwoo asked suddenly. Hanavi looked confused. Dirty? Yeah, like covered in mud or dust or sweat, from working hard or playing outside. The Veltari do not engage in activities that cause such contamination, Hanavi said. Our bodies are not designed for it. Our crystalline structure can be damaged by harsh substances. Jiwoo felt a strange sadness hearing that. So you've never jumped in a puddle? Or made a snow angel? Or gotten dust all over yourself from playing sports? I do not know what any of those activities are, Hanavi admitted, so Jiwoo explained them. He talked about playing soccer in the rain until he was covered head to toe in mud, about building snowmen with his sister, about the feeling of grass under bare feet and wind in his hair. about swimming in lakes and climbing trees and all the messy, physical, joyful things humans did. Hanavi listened with what seemed like hunger, not for food but for experience, for life lived in a way she had never imagined. On the fourth night, Jiwoo taught Hanavi about human music. He sang softly, trying not to wake the others. Old songs his mother had taught him, pop songs from the radio, even a silly nursery rhyme from childhood. Hanavi sat transfixed. Your voice creates patterns in the air. But more than that, it creates patterns in my mind. I feel something when you sing, something I do not have words for. That's the point of music, Jiwoo said with a smile. It makes you feel things. Happy or sad or excited or peaceful, music connects to emotions. We have mathematical compositions, Hanavi said, arrangements of tones that follow precise equations. But they do not make me feel like your singing does. Why? Because math is logical, Jiwoo explained. Music is emotional. The best songs don't make perfect sense. They just feel right. On the fifth night, Lieutenant Dae-hyun spoke to Jiwoo through the tent wall during the day. You're not sleeping well, he observed. I can hear you moving around at night. Jiwoo felt a flash of panic. Just having trouble adjusting to the ship, he said quickly. Dae-hyun studied him through the transparent wall. He was older than Jiwoo by about 10 years, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Be careful, he said quietly. Whatever you're doing. He walked away before Jiwoo could respond. That night, when Hanavi arrived, Jiwoo told her what happened. Someone noticed I'm awake at night. We need to be more careful. Perhaps we should stop these meetings, Hanavi said, but her voice was reluctant. Do you want to stop? Jiwoo asked. Hanavi was silent for a long moment. No, she finally admitted. These conversations have taught me more about humanity than all my scientific data combined. I understand now that your species cannot be measured only through biology. Your strength comes from something else. From this persistence you speak of, from emotions and illogical choices and the refusal to accept limitations. We're stubborn, Jiwoo said with a laugh. That's what my mother always said. Humans are too stubborn to know when to quit. It is not stubbornness, Hanavi said seriously. It is something greater. It is the essence of what makes you human. And I believe it is something the galaxy needs. What do you mean? Jiwoo asked, but Hanavi stood up, creating shadows in the dim light. I have already said too much. There are things happening in the galaxy that your people do not yet know. Challenges that require more than technology to overcome. That is all I can say. She left quickly that night, leaving Jiwoo alone with more questions than answers. But he knew she would return. They both needed these conversations now. They had become something neither of them had expected. A connection between two completely different beings. A bridge between two species. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of something that would change everything. Dr. Yoon Seo discovered everything on the sixth morning. She had been reviewing the medical data from all 20 humans when she noticed something strange. Jiwoo's vital signs showed irregular patterns during the night cycles. His heart rate elevated. His brain activity spiked. But most damning of all, the tent's environmental sensors showed unusual readings. The tent had been opened from the outside. Multiple times, on multiple nights. She spent an hour checking and rechecking the data. Then she called Commander Taeho to her tent using the communication system the Veltari had provided. Taeho arrived within minutes. Through the transparent tent walls, Jiwoo watched them talking. He couldn't hear what they were saying, but he saw Dr. Yoon Seo showing the commander her datapad. He saw Taeho's face grow dark with anger. Then they both looked directly at Jiwoo's tent. His stomach dropped. They knew. Within the hour, Veltari security forces entered the medical bay. They were different from the medical staff, taller, their crystalline bodies darker and more angular. They moved with purpose and authority. They went straight to Hanavi's research station at the far end of the bay. Jiwoo watched through his tent wall as they spoke to her. He couldn't hear their conversation, but he saw Hanavi's posture change. Her shoulders stiffened. Her glowing eyes dimmed slightly. Then, they escorted her out of the medical bay. The entire human delegation watched in silence as the research director, who had welcomed them, was led away like a prisoner. Commander Taeho activated the communication system that connected all 20 tents. His voice came through clearly, hard with anger. I want to know exactly what happened. Who broke quarantine protocol? Who had unauthorized contact with the aliens? Nobody spoke. Jiwoo felt 20 pairs of eyes on him through the transparent walls. He knew they all suspected him based on how the security forces had looked his direction. Jiwoo, Taeho said directly. Was it you? Jiwoo took a deep breath. Yes, sir. Research Director Hanavi came to my tent 5 times during the night cycles. We talked, that's all. Just talked? Just talked? Taeho's voice rose. Do you understand what you've done? You've violated the most fundamental rule of first contact. You've compromised the entire mission. And you've gotten that alien in trouble with her own people. She came to me, sir, Jiwoo said, trying to keep his voice steady. She wanted to understand humans better. I was just trying to help. You were just trying to help? Dr. Yunseo cut in. Private Jiwoo, you're a medic. You know the importance of quarantine protocols. People can die when those protocols are broken. Entire populations can be wiped out by diseases. What were you thinking? I was thinking that maybe understanding is more important than rules, Jiwoo said. The words came out before he could stop them. She wasn't trying to hurt anyone. She was trying to learn. And I learned from her too. We were building something. A connection. A connection that might have destroyed the relationship between our species, Taeho said coldly. Lieutenant Daehyun reported that he suspected something was happening. I should have investigated immediately. Jiwoo looked over at Daehyun's tent. The older man met his eyes and shook his head slowly. Not in anger, but in disappointment. Somehow that was worse. 2 hours later, the Veltari High Council summoned Commander Taeho. The same security forces that had taken Hanavi returned to escort the human commander from the medical bay. Taeho gave one last hard look at Jiwoo before leaving. The wait was excruciating. The humans sat in their tents with nothing to do but imagine the worst. Jiwoo felt the weight of all their eyes on him. He had ruined everything. First contact with an alien species and he had messed it up completely. Dr. Yoon Seo's voice came through the communication system. She sounded tired. Jiwoo, I need you to understand something. I'm not angry because you broke a rule. I'm angry because you were reckless. What if there had been a disease? What if you had gotten sick? What if Hanavi had gotten sick? The consequences could have been catastrophic. I know, Jiwoo said quietly. I understand that now. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this, Dr. Yoon Seo said. We have to live with the consequences now. 3 hours passed. Then 4. The silence in the medical bay was oppressive. Even the Veltari medical staff seemed nervous, moving through their duties with unusual speed. Finally, Commander Taeho returned. His face was grim. He activated the communication system so everyone could hear. I've just met with the Veltari High Council, he said heavily. The situation is worse than I thought. Research Director Hanavi is facing exile from the Veltari Empire. Permanent exile. She broke sacred protocols that have existed for thousands of years. The Council sees her actions as a betrayal of everything their civilization stands for. Jiwoo felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. Exile. Because of him. And us? Dr. Yoon Seo asked quietly. They're debating what to do with us, Taeho said. The Council is divided. Some want to expel us from Veltari space immediately, send us back to Earth and blacklist humanity from galactic contact for at least 3 centuries. Others want to study what happened, understand why Hanavi broke protocol. But one thing is clear. Admiral Kyung-hwa, the military commander of this fleet, wants us gone. She sees us as corrupting influences, dangerous. 3 centuries? Someone whispered. That's generations. Humanity would be isolated forever. That's the minimum, Taeho said. Some council members are arguing for permanent exclusion. They're saying that humans are too unpredictable, too willing to break rules, that we're a threat to the orderly structure of galactic civilization. Jiwoo stood up in his tent. Sir, I need to speak to the council. Absolutely not, Taeho said immediately. You've done enough damage. Sir, please, Jiwoo insisted. Hanavi is being punished because of me. The least I can do is explain what happened. Let them understand why she did it. They don't care why she did it, Taeho said. They only care that she broke the rules. Then let me make them care, Jiwoo said. I know I'm just a private. I know I have no authority. But I'm the one who talked to Hanavi every night. I'm the one who knows what we discussed. If there's any chance I can help her, I have to try. Lieutenant Daehyun spoke up suddenly. Commander, let him speak. What do we have to lose? They're already considering expelling us. Jiwoo can't make things worse than they already are. Taeho was silent for a long moment. Fine, he finally said. I'll request an audience for you. But Jiwoo, if you go before that council, you better have something important to say, something that makes them understand. Because right now they see humans as rule breakers who can't be trusted. You need to show them we're something more than that. I will, sir, Jiwoo said, though his heart was pounding so hard he thought everyone could hear it. Dr. Yoon Seo spoke up. Jiwoo, the Veltari value logic above all else. Don't appeal to their emotions. They don't think like we do. Present facts. Present evidence. Show them the practical value of what happened. I don't think facts are going to be enough, Jiwoo said quietly. Hanavi understood facts perfectly well. What she wanted to understand was something deeper, something that can't be measured with scanning devices or put into logical categories. Then what are you going to tell them? Taeho asked. Jiwoo looked around at all the humans watching him through their tent walls. At Dr. Yoon Seo, who looked worried. At Lieutenant Daehyun, who nodded encouragement. At Commander Taeho, who looked skeptical but willing to give him a chance. I'm going to show them what it means to be human, Jiwoo said. The same thing I showed Hanavi. Our persistence. Our refusal to give up. Our ability to keep going even when logic says we should quit. If the Veltari are going to judge humanity, they should judge us for what we really are. Not just rule breakers, but survivors, endurers, the species that doesn't know when to stop. That's either the bravest thing I've ever heard, Lieutenant Daehyun said slowly, or the most foolish. Probably both, Jiwoo admitted. But it's all I've got. Commander Taeho looked at him for a long moment. Then surprisingly he smiled slightly. Then let's hope it's enough. Because you're going to need every bit of that human stubbornness when you stand before the High Council. They're not going to make this easy. Nothing worth doing is easy, Jiwoo said. That's the most human thing there is. The council chamber was enormous. The ceiling stretched so high that Jiwoo couldn't see where it ended. The walls were made of the same crystalline material as the Veltari themselves, but these walls seemed alive. Light moved through them in patterns that hurt to look at directly. 13. Veltari sat in a semicircle on raised platforms. They were all larger than Hanavi, their crystalline bodies darker and more imposing. Their glowing eyes tracked Jiwoo as he entered the chamber, flanked by Commander Taeho and 2 Veltari security officers. In the center of the council sat Admiral Kyung-hwa. She was the darkest of all of them, her crystalline body almost black with veins of deep purple running through it. Her eyes glowed with an intensity that made Jiwoo want to look away. Hanavi stood to one side alone. Her glowing eyes met Jiwoo's for just a moment. He tried to send her courage, but she looked away quickly. Human-designated Jiwoo, Admiral Kyung-hwa's voice boomed through the chamber. The translator made her sound cold and absolute. You have been granted the extraordinary privilege of addressing this council. Do you understand the severity of what has occurred? Yes, Admiral, Jiwoo said. His voice sounded small in the huge space, but he forced himself to stand straight. I understand that Research Director Hanavi broke quarantine protocols, and I understand that it's my fault. Your fault? One of the other council members leaned forward. You accept responsibility? Yes, Jiwoo said simply. She came to learn about humans. I encouraged her to keep coming. I should have refused the contact. Instead, I welcomed it. Murmurs ran through the council. Admiral Kyung-hwa raised one crystalline hand for silence. At least the human understands basic accountability. That is more than Research Director Hanavi has shown. She claims her actions were necessary for scientific understanding, as if science justifies breaking sacred protocols. May I speak, Admiral? Jiwoo asked. That is why you are here, Kyung-hwa said coldly. Jiwoo took a deep breath. Commander Taeho had briefed him on the way here. Be respectful. Be logical. Present facts. But Jiwoo knew that wasn't going to work. The Veltari had all the facts they needed. What they didn't understand was why those facts mattered. Admiral, members of the council, Jiwoo began. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a diplomat. I'm just a medic who got selected randomly to represent Earth. I shouldn't be standing here, but I am, and I need to show you something. Without waiting for permission, Jiwoo started running in place. His feet pounded against the crystalline floor. His arms pumped. His breath came faster. The council members recoiled in shock. What is this human doing? One of them demanded. Running, Jiwoo said, not stopping. This is what humans do. We move, we expend energy. We push our bodies. Stop this immediately, Admiral Kyung-hwa commanded. No, Jiwoo said. He kept running. You need to understand what we are, so I'm going to keep running. And while I run, I'm going to tell you about humanity. Commander Taeho looked horrified, but he didn't interfere. The security officers moved forward, but Admiral Kyung-hwa held up a hand to stop them. She was watching Jiwoo with intense focus. Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day, Jiwoo said, his words coming between breaths. We weren't the strongest species. We weren't the fastest. We didn't have claws or fangs or armor. But we had one thing. We could keep going. When other animals got tired, we were still moving. When other predators gave up, we were still chasing. We won through persistence. He had been running for 5 minutes now. His heart rate was elevated, but he was nowhere near his limit. Our ancestors hunted by chasing animals until they collapsed. Not because we were faster, because we refused to stop. We would run for hours, for days if necessary. The animal would run away, rest, run away again, but the humans just kept coming, steady, unstoppable. Eventually, the animal had no energy left. That's how we survived 10 minutes. Sweat was forming on Jiwoo's forehead. Some of the council members were leaning forward now, fascinated despite themselves. Research Director Hanavi wanted to understand this about us. The medical scans didn't show it. The biological data didn't capture it. You can't measure persistence with instruments. You have to see it. Experience it. She understood that. This is absurd, Admiral Kyung-hwa said, but her voice had less certainty than before. You are proving nothing except that humans waste energy pointlessly. Am I? Jiwoo asked. He had been running for 15 minutes now. His breathing was harder but controlled. When was the last time any Veltari pushed their body like this? When was the last time you tested your limits? Silence from the council. You can't, Jiwoo continued, because your bodies are fragile. You told us that. You're strong in many ways, but you break under stress. So you built a civilization based on caution, on efficiency, on logic. And that's amazing. You've achieved things humans can only dream of. 20 minutes. His legs were burning now, but Jiwoo focused on his breathing. In and out, steady, just like all those training runs back home. But there are things humans can do that you can't. We can suffer and keep going. We can be tired and still function. We can be hurt and still fight. We don't give up because it's logical. We give up when we're dead, and sometimes not even then. He told them about his uncle who crawled for 3 days with a broken leg, about mountain climbers who lost fingers to frostbite but kept climbing, about marathon runners who collapsed at finish lines and still crawled forward, about soldiers who fought on despite wounds that should have killed them. 30 minutes. Jiwoo's body was screaming at him to stop, but he kept his pace steady. This was his testimony. This was his evidence, his own body refusing to quit. A few years ago, Jiwoo said, there was a plane crash in the mountains. The survivors had no food. They were freezing. Rescue teams couldn't reach them. Logic said they should die. But humans don't follow logic when it comes to survival. They ate whatever they could find. They huddled together for warmth. They waited. For weeks. When rescue finally arrived, the rescuers couldn't believe anyone was still alive. But 13 people survived because they refused to accept death. Some of the council members were watching Jiwoo's leg muscles work, watching his chest rise and fall with each breath, seeing the sweat on his skin, witnessing human endurance in real time. Research Director Hanavi saw something in human biology that your instruments couldn't measure, Jiwoo said. 40 minutes now. His voice was starting to strain. She saw that we're built for persistence. Every system in our body has backups, redundancies, ways to keep going when we should fail. Our hearts can pump faster. Our lungs can work harder. Our muscles can operate in pain. Our minds can push through exhaustion. We're designed to refuse defeat. He stopped running suddenly. His legs were shaking. His heart was pounding. But he stood straight and looked directly at Admiral Kyung-hwa. That's what she wanted to understand. And now you need to understand it too. Because whatever challenges the galaxy faces, you might need species that don't know when to quit. You might need humans. The chamber was completely silent. Then one of the council members spoke. How long could you have continued running? At least another hour, Jiwoo said honestly. Maybe 2. It would hurt, but I could do it. Impossible, another council member said. No biological system can sustain such output. Human systems can, Dr. Yoon Seo's voice came from the entrance. She had entered the chamber with Lieutenant Dae-hyun, Both of them held datapads. May we approach, Admiral? Admiral Kyunghwa looked annoyed but nodded. Dr. Yoon Seo walked forward and held up her datapad. These are Jiwoo's vital signs during his demonstration. His heart rate peaked at 160 beats per minute. For a Veltari, this would be fatal. For a human, it's elevated but sustainable. His body temperature rose by 2 degrees. Again, you would consider this dangerous. For us, it's normal during exercise. Lieutenant Dae-hyun stepped forward. Admiral, I've been watching Jiwoo for the past 6 days. I knew something was happening during the nights. I said nothing because I recognized that sometimes the most important connections happen when we break small rules to achieve greater understanding. That's a very human quality. We know when rules serve us and when they limit us. You advocate for rule breaking? Admiral Kyunghwa asked dangerously. I advocate for wisdom, Dae-hyun said calmly. Rules exist to protect us, but blind adherence to rules can also harm us. Humans understand this balance. We follow protocols when they make sense. We break them when something more important is at stake. Admiral Kyunghwa stood up from her platform. She walked down to stand directly in front of Jiwoo. Up close, she was enormous and intimidating. Her dark crystalline body seemed to absorb light. You ran for 40 minutes to make a point, she said quietly. You pushed your body past comfort to demonstrate human persistence. This was your testimony. Yes, Admiral, Jiwoo said. His legs were still shaking, but he met her glowing eyes. Then show me one more thing, she said. Show me your breath control. How long can a human hold their breath? Jiwoo understood. This was a test. He took 3 deep breaths, filling his lungs completely. Then he held his breath. The council watched in silence. 1 minute passed. 2 minutes. 3 minutes. Jiwoo's face turned red. His chest burned. But he held on. At 3.5 minutes, Admiral Kyunghwa said, Enough. You have proven your point. Jiwoo released his breath in a... The council chamber remained silent after Jiwoo's demonstration. Admiral Kyunghwa returned to her elevated platform, her crystalline body catching the light as she moved. She sat down slowly, her glowing eyes never leaving the exhausted human below. The council will deliberate, she announced. All humans and Research Director Hanavi will wait outside. The security officers escorted them out into an antechamber. It was smaller than the main chamber, but still impressive, with walls that shifted between different colors of light. Jiwoo's legs finally gave out and he sat down hard on the floor. His whole body was trembling from exertion. Dr. Yoon Seo knelt beside him immediately, checking his pulse and examining his eyes. You pushed yourself too hard, she said quietly, but there was something like pride in her voice. That was incredibly stupid and incredibly brave. It was the only thing I could think of, Jiwoo admitted. Talking wasn't going to convince them. They needed to see it. Commander Taeho stood nearby, his arms crossed. That was either the worst military discipline I've ever seen or the best improvisation. I haven't decided which yet. Lieutenant Dae-hyun handed Jiwoo a container of water. It was effective. I saw their faces. They were shocked. The Veltari pride themselves on logic, but you showed them something that logic can't explain. That matters. Hanavi approached slowly. She looked different somehow. Dimmer. As if the events had drained light from her crystalline body. Jiwoo, she said softly, you should not have done that. You should not have risked yourself for me. You risked yourself to understand humanity, Jiwoo said after drinking some water. I had to help them understand why that mattered. But now you are exhausted, Hanavi said. You have harmed your body. I'll recover, Jiwoo said with a tired smile. That's another human thing. We bounce back. Give me some food and rest and I'll be fine tomorrow. Maybe a little sore, but fine. Hanavi knelt down beside him. It was the closest they had ever been with witnesses present. I have learned so much from you, she said quietly. About persistence. About pushing past limits. About the illogical courage that drives your species. I only wish I had been more careful. I should not have put you in this position. You gave me the chance to be part of something important, Jiwoo said. That's worth a little trouble. They waited for 3 hours. Dr. Yoon Seo kept checking Jiwoo's vital signs, making sure he was recovering properly. Commander Taeho paced back and forth, his military training making stillness impossible. Lieutenant Dae-hyun sat in meditation, completely motionless. Hanavi stood by the wall, staring at the shifting lights as if searching for answers in their patterns. Finally, the doors to the council chamber opened. Admiral Kyunghwa stood in the doorway. The council has reached a decision. All parties will enter. They filed back into the chamber. Jiwoo's legs still felt weak, but he forced himself to stand without help. Whatever happened now, he wanted to face it on his feet. The 13 council members were all seated on their platforms. Their expressions were impossible to read, their crystalline faces too alien for human interpretation. Admiral Kyunghwa spoke first. This council has debated extensively. We have considered the violation of protocols. We have weighed the value of the information gained against the sacred rules that were broken. We have examined what the human Jiwoo demonstrated, and we have reached several conclusions. She paused. The silence stretched. First, the Admiral continued, Research Director Hanavi did indeed violate quarantine protocols. This is not in question. However, her motivations were scientific curiosity, not malicious intent. And the information she gathered has proven valuable. Therefore, we will not impose exile. Hanavi's glowing eyes brightened with relief. However, Kyunghwa's voice hardened. She cannot go unpunished. She will be removed from her position as research director. She will be reassigned. Another council member spoke up. This one had a lighter crystalline body with veins of silver. We have observed something during these proceedings. Something unexpected. The human Jiwoo demonstrated capabilities that our data had not predicted. More importantly, he demonstrated a quality that the Veltari lack, the ability to persist beyond logical limits. A third council member joined in. The galaxy faces challenges that the humans do not yet know about. In deep space, ancient threats are awakening, dangers that have slept for millennia. These threats cannot be defeated with technology alone. They require something more fundamental: endurance, the refusal to surrender even when all hope seems lost. Admiral Kyunghwa looked directly at Commander Tae-ho. Humanity is young. Your technology is primitive. Your understanding of the galaxy is limited, but you possess something that 300 advanced species have lost. You remember how to struggle, how to endure, how to push forward when everything says to stop. Commander Tae-ho stepped forward. Admiral, are you saying what I think you're saying? I am saying that this council has decided to propose a partnership, Kyunghwa said. An exchange program between the Veltari Empire and Earth. We will teach you our technology, our medicine, our understanding of the universe. In return, you will teach us something we have forgotten. How to endure, Dr. Yoon Seo spoke up, her voice careful. Admiral, with respect, how do we teach endurance? It's not a skill that can be transferred through data files. No, agreed the silver-veined council member. It must be taught through experience, through training, through the kind of personal connection that Research Director Hanavi discovered. We propose that human instructors come to our military academies and training facilities, that they teach our soldiers and explorers the methods humans use to push past their limits. You want us to train your military? Tae-ho asked, surprise clear in his voice. Your soldiers are far more advanced than ours. In weapons and tactics, yes, Admiral Kyunghwa acknowledged. But in endurance and persistence, they are inferior. A Veltari soldier will fight brilliantly for 2 hours, but then they require extensive rest. A human soldier, we have learned, can fight for days if necessary. This is the difference we need to bridge. Lieutenant Dae-hyun spoke up. Respectfully, Admiral, physical endurance training might damage Veltari physiology. Your crystalline structure is not designed for the kind of stress we put on our bodies. This is true, another council member said, but we believe there are mental techniques that can help. Ways to push past the safety mechanisms our bodies impose. The human Jiwoo ran for 40 minutes despite his body's signals to stop. He held his breath for over 3 minutes despite the pain. This is mental discipline combined with physical tolerance. We can learn at least some of this, Admiral Kyunghwa continued. In exchange, Earth will receive full access to our medical technology. We can cure diseases that currently kill millions of humans. We can extend your lifespan significantly. We can repair injuries that your doctors consider permanent. And quantum propulsion systems, added the silver-veined council member. Your space travel is limited to your own solar system. We can give you the ability to reach distant stars, to become a true galactic species. Commander Tae-ho looked at his team, at Dr. Yoon Seo, who looked excited by the medical possibilities, at Lieutenant Dae-hyun, who nodded slowly, seeing the strategic value, at Jiwoo, who was still trembling with exhaustion but smiling. This is an extraordinary offer, Tae-ho said carefully. But I have to ask, why now? Why after all this controversy? Because controversy revealed truth, Admiral Kyung-hwa said simply. If Research Director Hanavi had not broken protocol, we would have studied human biology and found you interesting but not essential. We would have made polite contact and moved on. But her actions and Jiwoo's response showed us something we needed to see. That humans are not just biologically resilient. You are culturally and mentally resilient. You have built a civilization on persistence despite living on a planet that constantly challenged you. Another council member spoke. We Veltari achieved spaceflight early in our development because we are intellectually brilliant. We never had to struggle. Never had to persist through difficulty. As a result, when we face true challenges, we often fail. Not because we lack intelligence, but because we lack the experience of pushing through when everything seems impossible. You think we can teach you that? Jiwoo asked. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard him. We believe you already have, Admiral Kyung-hwa said, looking at him directly. When you refused to stop running. When you held your breath past the point of pain. When you stood before this council exhausted and shaking, but still defiant. You taught us that endurance is not just biological. It is a choice, and choices can be learned. Dr. Yoon Seo stepped forward. Admiral, if we agree to this partnership, I would like to propose that Research Director Hanavi be given a new assignment. She should be the official liaison between humans and Veltari. She understands us better than any other member of your species, and clearly, she has the courage to make difficult choices in pursuit of knowledge. The council members looked at each other. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Then Admiral Kyung-hwa nodded. We agree. This position will be created specifically for her. She will coordinate the exchange. 6 months later, Jiwoo stood in the training facility watching 50 Veltari recruits attempt their first long-distance run. The facility was on a joint human-Veltari station, orbiting a moon between their two territories. It had taken 3 months to build and another month to outfit with equipment that could accommodate both species. The Veltari were struggling. Their crystalline bodies were not designed for sustained physical activity. After only 10 minutes, several had already slowed to a walk. Their glowing eyes were dimming with exhaustion. Keep moving, Jiwoo called out. You don't have to run fast. You just have to keep going. 1 foot in front of the other. Lieutenant Dae-hyun stood beside him, a data pad in hand tracking everyone's vital signs. 3 of them are approaching dangerous stress levels. We might need to call this early. Give them 2 more minutes, Jiwoo said. They can do this. Hanavi approached from the side entrance. She wore the uniform of her new position, a blend of Veltari formal wear and human practical design. In 6 months, she had become the bridge between 2 species, translating not just language but concepts and values. How are they doing? She asked. Better than their first week, Jiwoo admitted. Back then they couldn't run for 5 minutes. Now they're approaching 15. It's progress. Slow progress, Hanavi said, but there was no criticism in her voice. The Veltari military command is impatient. They expected faster results. Endurance can't be rushed, Jiwoo said, watching the recruits carefully. That's the whole point. You build it slowly, day by day. Push a little further each time. Eventually it becomes part of who you are. One of the Veltari recruits stumbled and fell. His crystalline body hit the floor with a sound like breaking glass. 2 human medics rushed over immediately, but the recruit pushed himself back up before they reached him. He was visibly shaking, but he started running again. That's Minho, Hanavi said quietly. He was ready to quit after the first day. He told me his body couldn't handle this kind of training. But he's still here. Because he chose to be, Jiwoo said with pride in his voice. That's what we're really teaching them. Not just physical endurance, but the mental choice to continue. The run ended at the 20-minute mark. Half the recruits had kept running the entire time. The other half had walked for portions but finished. It wasn't perfect, but it was improvement. After the training session, Jiwoo conducted the daily debrief. The Veltari recruits sat on specially designed benches while he stood at the front of the training room. Dr. Yoon Seo sat in the back, observing. She had been assigned to oversee the medical aspects of the program, making sure no permanent damage occurred during training. Today was good, Jiwoo told them. You pushed past 15 minutes. Some of you made it the full 20. That's real progress. Your bodies are adapting. Minho raised his hand. He was one of the younger recruits, his crystalline body a lighter shade than most. Ambassador Jiwoo, I have a question. When does it stop being painful? When does running become easy? It doesn't, Jiwoo said honestly. At least not completely. Running will always require effort, but the pain changes. Right now, your body is panicking. It's sending danger signals telling you to stop. Over time, you'll learn to recognize which signals are real danger and which are just discomfort. You'll learn to push through discomfort while respecting actual injury. Another recruit spoke up. Her name was Subin, and she was one of the fastest learners. Is it true that some humans run for over 26 miles without stopping? Yes, Jiwoo said. It's called a marathon. Thousands of humans do it every year. Some even run ultramarathons that are 50 or 100 miles long. The Veltari recruits looked at each other in disbelief. Even after months of training, they still struggled to understand the extremes of human endurance. How is that possible? Minho asked. Our medical staff says that should kill you. The energy expenditure alone should cause system failure. Dr. Yoon Seo stood up from the back. It would kill a Veltari. But human bodies are different. We have evolved redundant systems. Our muscles can operate in pain. Our hearts can sustain elevated rates for hours. Our minds can override our body's distress signals. It's not magic. It's millions of years of evolution on a planet that demanded persistence. Will we ever be able to do what humans do? Subin asked quietly. No, Jiwoo said, and he saw disappointment cross their crystalline faces. You'll never be able to run 100 miles. Your biology won't allow it. But that's not the goal. The goal is to push your limits further than you thought possible, to discover that you're capable of more than your instincts tell you. That's what endurance really means. Hanavi stepped forward. And you are achieving that. When we started this program, Veltari soldiers could fight effectively for 90 minutes before requiring rest. Now, after 6 months of training, our best soldiers can maintain combat effectiveness for 3 hours. That is double the capability. That is extraordinary. The recruits looked more encouraged by this. Their research director turned liaison understood them in ways the humans couldn't. She knew what achievements meant for the Veltari. After the debrief, Jiwoo and Hanavi walked together through the station corridors. The station was a marvel of combined engineering. Veltari crystalline architecture blended with human practical design. Meditation gardens from Earth culture mixed with quantum observation chambers from Veltari science. I received a report from the Exploration Division, Hanavi said as they walked. A joint human Veltari team successfully completed a 30-day survey mission to the Kuiper sector. The previous Veltari team had to abort after 10 days due to crew exhaustion. The humans taught them techniques for managing fatigue and maintaining morale. That's good news, Jiwoo said. It means the training is working beyond just the military applications. It is transforming us, Hanavi said softly. The entire Veltari approach to challenges is changing. We are learning that not every problem requires an immediate solution. Sometimes persistence and patience are the answer. They reached one of the station's observation decks. Through the massive windows, they could see both human ships and Veltari vessels moving in coordinated patterns. 6 months ago, such a sight would have been impossible. Now it was routine. Do you regret it? Jiwoo asked suddenly. Breaking quarantine that first night? If you hadn't, you'd still be a research director, a prestigious position. Instead, I am a liaison, Hanavi said. She turned to look at him. A position that didn't exist until I created the need for it. I have helped bridge 2 species. I have contributed to changing how the Veltari understand themselves and their place in the galaxy. Do I regret this? No, not for a moment. Commander Taeho found them on the observation deck. He had been promoted to colonel and given command of all human operations on the joint station. Ambassador Liaison, we have a situation that requires both of you. They followed him to the command center. Admiral Kyunghwa was there on a holographic display. Behind her were several other Veltari military leaders. We have detected an anomaly in the outer reach, Kyunghwa said without preamble. It matches the signature of the ancient threats I mentioned 6 months ago. A reconnaissance mission is required. It will be dangerous and lengthy, possibly lasting several months. You want to send a joint team, Jiwoo guessed. We must, Kyunghwa said. A Veltari-only team would not survive the duration. The psychological stress alone would break them. But a joint team with human endurance training and Veltari technology has a chance. I'll go, Jiwoo said immediately. As will I, Hanavi added. Colonel Taeho looked at them both. This isn't a training mission. This is a real operation with real danger. Are you both certain? We've spent 6 months teaching persistence and partnership, Jiwoo said. Now we have to demonstrate it. Besides, Hanavi and I work well together. We understand each other. That is precisely why you are needed, Admiral Kyunghwa said. You have become the symbol of what both species can achieve together. Your partnership represents the future we are building. Over the next week, they prepared for the mission. A crew of 15 was assembled. 8 humans and 7 Veltari. Each pairing was carefully considered. Each member had trained in both Veltari technology and human endurance techniques. The ship they would use was a hybrid design. Veltari quantum engines and navigation systems combined with human life support and comfort considerations. It could travel faster than any human vessel and sustain longer missions than any Veltari ship. The night before departure, Ji-woo couldn't sleep. He stood in his quarters looking out at the stars, thinking about how much had changed. 6 months ago, he was a rookie medic who got selected by random chance. Now he was leading an expedition into unknown space. Hanavi knocked on his door. She had learned the human custom of knocking rather than just entering. "I knew you would be awake," she said, entering when he called her in. "I'm also unable to rest." "Too much anticipation. Are you nervous?" Ji-woo asked. "Yes," Hanavi admitted, "but also excited. 6 months ago, I would have called this mission impossible. The Veltari do not do impossible things, but you have taught me that impossible is just a word. Just a limit we place on ourselves.